All right, welcome everyone to another XAFers community stand-up. The topic for today is really excited, is XAF modularity, plugins, and application domains. I remember when I met Hoche, one of the first things we did was all of this type of dark magic, and he actually put a lot of homework for me to start doing things like these two applications doesn't know about each other, how you communicate and how you load the assembly and do something with it and so on. So I think that this is a really interesting topic, and we had also a couple of questions from the communities that we will be answering. And as always, we miss February stand-up. It was crazy busy the month of February, but we're having two meetup this month, and we already have another one for April, and we keep going. This is what we like, this is what we enjoy, this is the discussion that we want to have. So as always, join our Facebook group. We already are 3,500 members, so I'm really excited about that. We keep growing. Follow XAF. There is always the latest news of everything related with the framework. Join the LinkedIn group. And today we're going to be going more in deep about the plugin application domains, and we have a lot of nice things here to say. Before I let Hoche take the handle of the meetup, I want to also say that Hoche has been doing a complete training tour around the world. So he's been already like 4 months since he left his home. And he has been in Dubai, Mexico, US, and he's planning to go to Europe. So if you are interested in meeting with him, maybe get some training, maybe get some sessions, or even just get a beer and talk about XAF and all the projects, please let him know. We love this type of encounter. I always try to join, even if through Zoom or any of the video conference media, but really excited. If you see also, we have, we decided to take from our CRM the country of every student or customer that we have talked to and work with. And to be honest, we were really excited to see this in a visualization where we, like a lot of XAFers, think that XAF is not a framework that a lot of people are using. And only by seeing this map, you can see that XAF is all over the world and it's growing. It's growing by the day. And every time that we go to a new place, new country, we find someone that is using XAF and we have great discussions with them. So, Hoche, if you want to introduce yourself, and after that, you can jump right to the topic and we can get on.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Hoche Ojeda. I work for Sari and Bit Frameworks. Today we're going to have a topic that I'm really interested in, and it's always the stuff that I like to do. Like, this is kind of an architecture that I love in general, like not only SAF architecture, but the plugin architecture. And as Javier said, this was one of the first technical experiments that we did when we met for the first time. So I'm really excited about today, especially because during the SAF tour, everyone asked about this architecture. So this is like really exciting in that sense. It's like, okay, this is what the public wants. So let's give a topic that they asked for. I mean, and also I found that a lot of the applications that SAF is going to replace in the next year in our customer sites, they kind of have this architecture. So it's good to take to reach this content actually, because it's something that has always been possible, but we don't do it like often. So with that said, Javier, let's start with the technical experiments. Today is going to be a lot of code. I mean, not writing, but I will show you what the parts are and also give you some topics that you can follow that are interesting to create reusable modules. So let's start. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So today's topic is modular architecture. This can be done in several ways. So we did basically 3 different examples. I'm going to start with the more with the one that is not XAF specific, or just how you do reusable plugins in .NET in general. And then we will move to the XAF approach. So it's going to be kind of really interesting topic that we have today. And then show you some links that you can research. I will share like a document with all the links that you might need to understand these concepts. Okay, so first thing first, there is a concept that is maybe not well known in the .NET world, which is application domains. Application domains is basically the instance of an application inside of the .NET runtime. So for that, just to put it here, maybe it's not even listed yet, but I published that this morning. So let's go to the first page. Yeah. So this is a really interesting concept, especially if you do modular architecture, like if you want to do plugin-based development, you need to understand how application domain works. Usually this is the same theory that is used to create web servers. For example, IIS, Apache, and Nginx, they are a process that is able to spin up other processes and communicate with them. So the theory is here. I will put this link on the chat. There are important changes on this theory between Net Framework, which is what I call the old framework, from 1 to 4.8, something like that. And then the new frameworks from 5 to 8, they have a different concept, which is the assembly load context. It's a little bit different between these versions, but they kind of serve the same purposes. So it's a really interesting reading. Take a look to this article later. So let's go back to the code. So the idea usually is that to make plugins, you kind of have to have, you need to understand the solid design pattern. In the solid design pattern, there is one principle that is the Liskov substitution principle of the interfaces. So the idea is, also this idea is really clear in Windows Communication Foundation. I was just remembering yesterday that when Windows Communication Foundation was launched, I went to New York for first time to attend to the release party and to take some courses. So it was a really interesting topic. So the idea is basically you create interfaces. These interfaces then serve as a common contract to communicate applications. So in this case, this is a really simple interface, which only has two methods, close window and show window. And the show window method is an object space. The method can take any property that you need to communicate between applications. It can take the application domain, it can take the XAF application instance, the XAF Windows applications instance, but in most cases, you just want to communicate the data. So for that, you use the object space. But to pass the XAF application can be also useful because you can do some other things like manipulate the model or things like that. So in this project, there are a few things that we need to notice. The first one is the target framework. Now, this is really important because there are like two different worlds, like .NET and Net Framework. Net Framework is the traditional frameworks from 1 that is actually not listed anymore to 4.81 or 8.2. I think there is 8.2. And then the .NET framework is from 5 to 8, and they are not compatible between each other. There are some, you can do some magic to communicate them, but it's kind of difficult. So the first thing that you need to decide when you're going to do your plugin architecture is which .NET are you going to target. In this case, we did it with the traditional .NET because there is the biggest amount of applications in that framework. But whatever I'm going to show you, it can be easily translated to Net 5 to 8. So first, we need to decide about the framework, and we need to set the framework for all the projects in the same way. So all of them are 4.72 because you needed to have the same type of reference, right? So then you have the contract, and then this is a super simple contract. You can extend it with more, in a more complicated way. Maybe this is like too simple, but it's good to show the purpose of this idea. So then these contracts you will share between your plugins. And here I have this Windows Form plugin, and between your application. So the main concept here is like, what are interfaces good for? Interfaces are good for to understand how to manipulate some part of the code. And there's a really easy example on real life that you can understand it, use it to understand it better, which is, for example, if you have a BMW and a Mercedes-Benz, they both have really different implementations of the engine, of the gears, like, like some are automatic, some are mechanic, some are totally different paradigms. But in the end, you can write a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW because they have a common interface. Both of them present a steering wheel and some pedals for hit the gas and the brake and things like that. So that's the idea of interfaces. You don't care about the real implementation. You care only about how to handle the implementation with a common contract, like steering wheels and the pedals for gas and brake. So once you know that idea, you can tell, okay, this contract defines the basic architecture for a plugin. So in here, I created my first plugin. My first plugin is really simple. I just create a class, I implement the iPlugin interface, which I have to implement the close method, which I have not done anything here, and the show window method. In this window, I take an object space, and I use that object space to create the form. And then I add some text boxes to the form using a helper. Why am I using this helper? It's a really simple reason. My Visual Studio has gone crazy, and I don't see the toolbox to drag and drop components. So I did them in code. Basically, this helper, what it does, it takes the form and it adds controls to it based on the starting point and an end point and a label. So it's kind of like basically creating a form in code. You don't have to do that, but it's also a really neat approach to use. So it's like, I'm happy that I can show this here too. So I'll create the instance of the form. This instance of the form will receive the object space in the constructor. So then I can use the text box to set some data or to set some properties in a persistent object. Then I create the form elements, and then I show the form. So this is what the plugin is going to do. Whatever I do here on this side is up to me. I have the object space as reference. And if I want more information, I can pass the XAF application. But this is kind of how the traditional plugin architecture will look like. So this is actually an executable. If I see the type of program that I'm using, and I think I got disconnected from the computer. Oh, yeah, the studio is going crazy. That's happened because the toolbox is still loading, I guess. So let's wait a little bit. And if not, I will close it. Well, it's not going to respond, so let's close this window. Demo effect. Yesterday at night when I was practicing this, everything worked fine. So it's time to sip some water. Okay, let's wait for this to load. And you will see how simple this idea is, but it's really useful in general. Okay, so that was everything that you need to know about the plugin. Whatever you do in the plugin is up to you. And what you need to communicate, you need to define it through the interface. So Also, to put you in more context, if you see this project, I have a reference to DevExpress Express app app. So in this assembly, if where the object space interface lives, if I need more information, like for example, the concrete implementation of the Windows Forms application, I will have to add reference to the Win platform in this plugin contract. But in this case, I'm using only agnostic references, so this one is more than enough. And then I'm going to show you some Windows Forms code, actually. So it's in the Windows module here. And basically, it's a controller with two actions. One is to load the plugin from the file system, and one is to execute it. So you have load plugin and show plugin. So let's go to load plugin. In this one, I show like basically an open file dialog that is filtered by DLLs or all files. And then in this one, I select the DLL that I want to load. And then I save the path and the DLL or the assembly name. I should have renamed it to assembly because it can be an executable or it can be a DLL. That is the concept of assembly in .NET. And then it's as easy as doing assembly load from, and you pass the path of the DLL or the assembly, and then you have the assembly loaded. Then you need to get all the types in that assembly that implements the iPlugin interface. This will return you an array of types because maybe there is more than one type that implements the iPlugin interface. And here I'm doing some checks like that is not an interface and that is not abstract to make sure that there are classes that I can instantiate. So in the end, I save the class name and then I commit the information. So basically here, I'm just reading the file from the file system, getting the plugins, and then in this case, I'm just getting the first one, but I can define more than one plugin in an assembly. You can have 10 plugins in the same assembly if you want. And then I'm committing the changes. So that's kind of really simple. And the important part that we need here is that we need the path of the DLL, the name of the class that we're going to instantiate, and the folder where the DLL is living. Why? Because at sometimes you might need to resolve related DLLs that are not part of the assembly. For example, imagine that in your plugin you use a third-party component that there is no reference for that component in your application. So I will show you some tricks on how to do that. And that's where the application domains come in hand. So I'm going to show you the first part of the code running. So you can start making sense out of this. Then I'll show you the full example of the code running. And this computer is behind me because I'm still using the Mac, so I can hear the fan like going like crazy. Okay, so in the XAF application, we only have one persistent class, which is called plugin, where I say basically the information about the DLL, the path, and the class name. So see, I have like really simple properties, all of them string. Class name, name of the plugin, the DLL, which is the path of the assembly, and the path, which is the folder, because she will need it to resolve the missing references later. Actually, also Octane, the framework Octane for Blazor, do something like this. Octane is a framework that is an application framework. People think that it's a CMS framework, but it's an application framework. You can do real world applications there. So here, let's go to the plugin section. And to load a plugin is as simple as do this, and then pick it from the file system. So in here, I show all the files because mine is an executable. I forgot to change the value to a DLL, but executable and DLL are exactly the same thing. Both are called assemblies in .NET. So I select this, and this will fill the information here. and then commit the changes. So in the path, we have the path for where the assembly is living. We know the file name, the DLL name, and then the class name, that one of the class names that implement the iPlugin interface, because I just got the first one, but I can create several instances on the same assembly. So I can have several plugins in one single assembly. And the name, this is just for like human readable information, my plugin. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just saving mostly like path related information. There is no reference to the DLL at all. So then the next code that I'm going to show you is the other simple action, which is called show plugin. Not a creative name, maybe there should be a different name for that, but it's good for the example. So show plugin, what it does, it takes the current object and casts it as plugin so I can get information from it. And then this app domain, current domain, is the domain of the current application that I'm running at the moment. You can have several domains inside of a single process. So in .NET, you can have like a single running executable with 10 application domains. Each of them is totally separated and isolated from each other. They can communicate. There is a way to have like a small network between the process that you can communicate information through messages, there are hundreds of ways to do that. And everything is like really mature and really well documented. But this kind of an obscure type of knowledge that most people don't use in daily basis. But it's there. So try to use it is an amazing technology. So here, this current domain is the domain of the application that is running. And there is an event. This event happens when the application tries to use some types that are not registered in the application domain, from DLLs or assemblies that are not registered in the current application domain. So we trigger the assembly resolve event. Then it's up to you to decide from where you're going to get that assembly and give it back to the framework. Otherwise, you will have to throw an exception, like missing reference or something like that. So what we do here is that when this happens, if there is a type that we cannot find in the assembly that we have loaded, we will receive the name of the assembly. So we can basically, with that name, we can go and look for that in the file system and then load it from the file system. That's why you need the path where your plugin is living, because you don't only need the DLL produced by your own project. Maybe you will need, what can I tell you, like Microsoft.js on the DLL, or any specific DLL that you need in your code. So usually those will be in the path where the output of your plugin is produced. So this is basically just a safeguard. Like if you cannot find it, try to look for that in the folder where the plugin is living. So here, what we do is that we combine the path of where the plugin is living with the assembly that we're looking for, and then we just try to load it from the file system. If not, this will throw an exception. So this is why you use the application domains. And also, if you want to do something even more complicated, we can create a new application domain. So if the plugin crashes, it doesn't crash the main window. So it's also a good idea sometimes. Then here we create the path for the plugin that we want to load. Then we do basically assembly load. This is the line, like we load it from the file system. And if there is a reference that is missing, it will trigger this part of the code here. And then since we know that there is a method that is called show window, what we do is like from the class type that we have saved, we use the activator create instance, and you pass the type. You can pass also the type name, or you can pass the type name and the assembly. There are several overloads for this. But the idea is that, okay, this class that implements the iPlugin interface, I want to create an instance, and I don't know anything about that class, only that implemented the interface that I want. Once you do that, you can save it in a variable that is type of your interface, which will have the two methods, show window and close. And then the plugin will do the show window, and we pass what it needed to show the window, so the object space. So this is kind of a really simple example, but this is basically the plugin architecture in a .NET Windows Forms application. You can use this outside of XAF or in XAF, it's up to you. So we have the plugin, and let's do load plugin. No, sorry, show plugin. So here, this is the window that is totally unbound from the application that we have back. There's a communication through the object space or through any part of the application that you want to share. You can pass any variable through the common interface and do whatever you want in here. So this, you can produce new forms, and I will do a new form actually right now. So you can see that it's kind of the same idea. And to be honest, I'm going to do it like even without the designer, because what makes my studio crash was the designer. So I'm going to add a new class, my second plugin. And I need to make it public and implement a plugin. If you have any doubts, just put them in the chat, and Javier will let me know that that there is like something that we need to answer. And then we implement the interface. So I'm not going to implement the close window. What here I'm going to do is I'm going to even like I'm going to do it for a form that it doesn't even exist on the as a design form. So I'm just going to create bar my form equals new form, not form one, just form. This is a system Windows form. So this is even is a form created in code. Then what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the helper that I have to create fields in runtime. So for that, I will basically do this code here. I will copy it to the other plugin. So I have my form here. This, if I want, I don't even need to use the object space. I can use it in a different way outside, just at the class level. I don't even need it. So here we will add, I don't know, address and email. And the form that we're going to pass is my form and my form.show. And maybe two more properties. And city. And then what I need to do is, that's basically how you create a plugin. It's that easy. I just need to compile this. And then in the code where I load the plugins, I will have more than one. So I just need to change a little bit that code here. And in this case, I will try to use, when I loaded the number one, let's see if this works, because maybe since I add another plugin, I don't know in which order they're going to come. So, if not, let's do something. I have the types here. So I can get the type where the name is a specific name. I'll do first of default. So it's t is lambda of t dot name contains. I'll do in my second plugin. That's the name of the And then from this, I need the class name. Okay. So let's give it a try. Let's try to load a different plugin. So let's make sure that we have compiled this one. So we have the new class or plugin as part of the assembly. And then let's run the Windows application. Okay, so let's do new plugin. And load plugin, and it's going to be exactly the same process. And see, now the name of the class is my second plugin. Let's save it, and let's put a name. And show plugin. And see, this is the other form that I created. So it can be super dynamic. And I have not touched my XAF application. Everything is the same. So in here, we're interacting with forms, with traditional forms. So I'm going to show a different approach for this, which is a more XAF-like approach. By the way, you can download this from my GitHub page. It's open. So well, let's go here. And you can see, I will put this on the, or Javier maybe can put the repositories there. So there is this one, the Windows plugin demo, and I'm going to show this one right now. So that's all for this approach. Let's close this. And the second one is even, it's like totally a SAF approach for this. The thing is that in what I showed you before, I was reinventing the wheel. I just don't need to do that. There is like SAF provides something for this modular architecture. So here there are two articles that I want to show you. This one and this one. So the first one is how to register a module. There are some ways to register a module. This is in the official SAF and the Express website. Then the approach that I wanted to use is to do it by configuration files. So if you remember, maybe you have seen this on your application configuration. And there is like in the app settings, there is a key that is called modules. And you always wonder, what do you put in there? There is like a lot of tooling that SAP has for all the parts of a line of business application development that are just there for you to use, but you just need to educate yourself in like what things do they offer, because they offer basically every possible aspect of the line of business application, like how you update the database, how you deploy it, how you create a usable module. So there is even more than of stuff that you think. You just need to look deeper. Okay, so this idea is from this document, this one. So the idea is that you can set the names of the modules in your configuration file, the name of the assemblies, and then just change your application, how it starts. The application contains several setup methods overload. So one of the setup methods overload is that you pass an application name, the connection string, and a list of modules. And by modules, you use the name of the assembly, and that assembly should exist in the bin folder of the application. So you can use that for Windows and for web forms. So it's like really, really nice. So let's go here. And see, you will see here that I changed my I know here is in the program. I commented out the normal setup that doesn't require any information. And I did the setup that I pass the application name, the connection string, and the list of modules. And the list of modules is set here. Actually, to show you how this works, I'm going to comment this out and leave this one. Oh, it's the same. Okay, so this one will be the empty one. So I want to show you that this module is totally empty. There is no persistent classes, not controllers, not anything. So if I run this, basically will show like just the empty shell, like the main windows without anything extra. And let me put this as startup project. So let's wait a little bit for this to load. I hope there is no demo effect today. Well, if not, I will show you it later in a different video. Okay, so see, there is nothing in the application because this is an empty shell of application. I have not set anything on this application besides the little change on the application in how the application is being set up. So see, this is how the application looks like. Okay, now for the second part of this application, what we're going to do is we're going to comment out this and remove this. The first thing I want to show you is that there is no direct reference to those modules. Customer module or invoicing module are not here, and also are not in the agnostic. They are not here, and they are not even in the same solution. On the original example that I did, it was in the same solution, but it's like, I really want to prove that you don't need to have any information about your applications or your modules to have this architecture. So there is no reference to any of these modules. But I save them in the same folder, so I can put it in the same repository. So here we have two more solutions. One is the customer module, and one is the invoicing module. I'm going to open the customer module first. And here, I'm going to take this out and just going to load one module at a time. And then I will load both. Okay, so in this case, let's see, it's opening here. This is the customer module, which contains basically just class name customer. Oh, it's like, okay. So only like two properties so far and nothing extra. And the only thing that I did that is kind of really neat is that I added a task in the MSS build settings. So if I unload the project and I see the file, if I go down in the end, there is this after build. This is something that you can do, some like programmatically with XML things that you can do. Like, so I'm copying the file to, there's a question. Okay, it's the people from Mexico. That's nice. So there is like this task that what I'm doing in this task is basically going to the Win and Web application to the bin folder and copy the output of this assembly to do it automatically, to don't have to go and copy the files. So that's what I'm doing. So let's reload this. And that's it. So if I build this, it will build to create the assembly in the bin folder. And then when it finishes, it will copy to the Win and Web application. So now that we have done that, we can go back to the main application here, and we are only loading the customers module. So let's run this, and this will load the assembly from the file system just by changing the setup of the application and passing the name of the assemblies that we need, and that is in the program class. Here, by doing this is that how we change this. So see, now I have a navigation item and I have a customer here. Beautiful, and I have this data that I was using before. But just to show you that I'm doing this through the plugin, I'm going to extend my plugin. So for the customer modules, let's add, I don't know, another property. Date of birth. And maybe a controller. Let's make it this more beautiful. So customer controller. And stuff action simple. Set active. Set active. And what we're going to do is this view current object as customer. And let's import this namespace. And what we're going to do is set it active equals true. This view object space commit change. Easy. So we recompile this. So we'll produce a new assembly. It will be copied to the file system of the application, and now this will load it. So let's see how this goes. Okay, now we have the new date, their day of birth, the new property, and we have the set active action. So let's set active. See, and it's working. Totally based on plugins. This application doesn't have any reference to the other module. So see how nice can it be. But now let's make it bigger and more, I will not say complicated, but more like a larger example. So let me close all of this. Let's go here. And let's go to the other solutions. So we have opened the customer modules, the solution, the plugin by reflection solution, and then let's do the invoice modules solution. This one shows another feature of XAF, which is how I can modify the metadata on runtime. So the idea here is that XAF first load all the modules and then it do a setup for each of them. When all the modules are loaded in the application domain, you have access to the XAF type systems to interact with the types. And you can extend the types if you want. This is a question that we get all the time. How do I extend my application in runtime? There is like hundreds of ways to do it. People just want to add more fields in the UI, and then have that reflected on the tables. And it's just as easy as that if you want. There is like several ways to introduce this mechanic. But the main thing is that you will need to restart the application because XAF creates a dictionary of the persistent types that cannot be modified in runtime after these methods happen. After the setup happened, forget about adding new information to the type systems. So in here is like I have an invoice. A few things that I want you to notice: the invoice doesn't have a property for the customer. It's not here. I'm going to inject that using the type systems. And also, as you saw in the other in the customers module, the customer doesn't have like a collection of invoices, and I show it when the application was running. Actually, I will run it again. That there is no detail of invoices for the customer. So in this second module, I'm going to actually even extend my first module because I'm going to add a relationship to it. And again, I don't have reference between these modules. If I open the customer here, there is nothing here down like a list of invoices. So in this case, what I'm going to do is, okay, the invoice doesn't have a property for customer, and the customer, I don't have a reference here to create the collection of invoices there. So there is another link that I want to show you, which is, I think I have it open already. This one, use metadata to customize the business class dynamically. I should change my second name from Manuel to Dynamic, because everyone wants a dynamic application, whatever that means, actually. There are several interpretations of that. But yeah, you want to do it dynamic, here's how to do it dynamic. Here they show an example of how to do a master-leader relationship in code. And here is not so clear because they use names like type 1 and type 2, which is kind of difficult to understand, but it's kind of the same example as I have. So let's go to the invoicing module and let's go to the module class and let's see the setup. So here what I'm doing is I'm finding the type info of invoice. This I have reference, so I can use the class invoice to get the info class. For customers, I don't have it, but this XAF type subsystems allow me to find the type through the name. So here I'm passing the name of the type, the full name of the type. So here I have the information for the type customer. Then what I do is I look for the member, or this should be property because member can be a method, like a function or a property. I look for the member name customer in the class invoice, and then I look for the member name invoices in the type customer, the detailed part. So if there is no property named customer in the invoice type, then I'm going to create it. So here I'm created in the invoice type, I'm created the property customer, type of customer. So it's the info that I got first, the customer info. So I'm telling to XAF or XPO, create a property type of customers with the name customer in the invoice class. And then I'm adding the attribute, telling like, this is the idea of the attribute, the text that you put usually in code. And then which type of association it will be, like which type of property we'll have. In this case is the customer property. And then if it should be refreshed or not. This is actually totally optional. You can remove it. You just need these two parts here. And then I'm going to the invoice class. This is the invoice property. So I'm looking for the invoice property inside of the customer type. And in this case, it's null. So I'm going to create it also. Here is a little bit more of magic. This is more .NET than XAF or XPO or something like that. Is how you create a generic type. So the element type of this collection or list is going to be invoice. So I get the type info from the invoice, and this is going to be the element type, this type. Then I have a type of generic list. So this is an XP collection of the element type, which is this one, which is invoices. So then I have these two parts, and then you can tell something like, the type of the list make generic, and then you pass the parameter of this is an XP collection of invoices. So the element type is invoice, as you see here. And then just knowing the type, you can go again to the customer's info, type info, and then create the member. And the member is going to be named invoices. And then you pass the type, which is the generic of XP collection with the invoice type. Then you add the attribute, and then you add which type of properties that I'm using. And then depending on your use case, this can be aggregated or not. And that's basically it. And then you refresh both informations here. And that's it. So I'm going to compile this. This is going to do the same as the other module. It's going to copy the files to the bin folder of each Win and web application. So what I need to do here is go to my main application, go to the configuration file, and then put this one here. So let's take this and reveal this one. And then start. And now you will see that this is a more complex scenario because we extend both modules without having reference to them, and we load them also dynamically without having reference to them. So if you want a modular application, there you go. Changing the types, changing the persistent types, controllers, actions, modifying one module from another module. So see, now the customers have a collection of invoices. And if we go to an invoice, then the invoice class will have the customer property, even when it was not defined in the class level. So that's kind of basically it for this example. This works exactly the same on web. I'm going to show you, but it's not going to work because of my computer. I have a mess here. I have like all the versions of the Express registered on the GAC, and I have problems between major and minor versions. But I will show you where you have to do this, and you can actually download this code and run it on your side. So in the global attacks, in the application start, you do the same trick. You comment out your setup, and then you do the other setup, which is the one that takes the application name, the connection string, and the list of modules. So you can uncomment this, and that's the magic. Then you just run it, and that's exactly the same. You don't have to do all the things that I showed you before from the application domain, so on and so forth, right? So it's like XAF provide already the mechanisms for this. And the two questions that I know I'm going to get, and I'm going to answer them before they've been asked. So this is also possible for Blazor and for the new framework like Net 6, 5, 8, you name it. I'm just showing this because we have a lot of customers in the traditional framework. So this is why, I load the wrong one. So this is going to fail on my side, but you can do it on your side. Because on my side, I have several applications several DLLs on the GAC, and it's telling me like, hey, I resolving this type, and it's twice on the GAC. Which one should I use? So to make this work on my side, I need to clean my GAC, which is a complicated. It's not complicated, but this is slow. So I wasn't able to do it before the meeting. So this is going to fail, and I'm going to show you why. But you can just download this source, compile it in your side, and it will work. You don't even have to copy the file, and everything is automatically done for you. So this will fail. So I will show you why it's failing on my side, but it's my environment in specific. So the question is, yes, you can. Oh, here it is. So here it will tell me something like, here it is, this type. Progress control exists in both files in 23.2 and 23.1. DLL, which one should I use? Because those are like two versions coexisting in the GAC. But you can run it on your side. That's your little homework. So the question that I'm anticipating right now is that if this work on Blazor and the framework and the new versions, yes, they do run on .NET. The approach is almost the same. That's one. And the second one is everyone will ask, will this affect the performance? They always ask the same. And this is the same as it was compiled on this, like with the reference and everything. The performance in runtime is exactly the same. Maybe the startup time will be like 1 millisecond longer because you will have to go and locate the file from the search system and load it into your application domain. XAF do all of that for you, but in runtime, the performance is indistinguishable of application that it was compiled all together in order with modularity. So you might introduce 1, 2, 3 seconds or maybe less on the startup of the application by loading the assemblies in this way. And that's everything for the presentation. There is more information for this, but I guess when we publish the video of this meetup, we will post all the links below of the information that we use and that you can use to understand how to make your own plugins and reusable modules.
All right, guys. Well, that will be then. I don't know you guys, but the first time that I started playing with this type of modularity is even hard pronouncing it. And we were able to get two applications that they didn't know nothing about each other, communicating and doing cool stuff. My mind was completely blown. So I hope you find it as interesting as we do. As always, thank you for joining. If you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And we definitely are going to be back this month with another meetup. So stay tuned. I think that we also have one really interesting about legacy application and what we can do to modernize it a little bit and to do some neat things that's coming as well. And keep surfing. See you guys next meetup.
See you guys later. Thanks for joining.